meeting to order at 4 o'clock. We have the whole committee here. If you could do a roll call, Jen, that would be great.
Absolutely. First, we have Chair Carter, who
Here.
obviously is here. Vice Chair Bluth.
Here.
Committee Member Connor.
Here.
Committee Member Hunter.
Here.
Committee Member Polly.
Here.
Committee Member Rath.
Here.
And Committee Member Tregenza.
Here.
Great. That is a full committee here we have present. And real quick, I just want to give the public comment information for later on when we open the public comment. We will also be announcing this multiple times as we open public comment as well. So that number is 831-225-0330. And you'll need a conference ID that is 1927648. Thank you. Take it away, Chair.
So from staff, we have Jennifer Cleary and Andy Flower.
Also Fernanda Riveri.
And Fernanda Riveri is here too.
And Christy
And Christy
Sabdo.
as well. I'm going to go ahead and open the consent agenda. I'm struggling with my mic right now. I'm going to go ahead and open the consent agenda and ask if anybody would like to discuss it. Andy, can you go ahead and explain why?
Yes, you have a clarifying question about why this is on consent. And this is a project where it would otherwise be.
Conference will automatically end in 5 minutes.
Oh, we were told that wouldn't happen. Excuse us. Apologize. Okay. Yes, so this is a project that would have otherwise been reviewed administratively, not brought forward to the ARC, except that they need a slight variation to setbacks. And so we didn't charge an increased price. Instead, we're bringing it to your attention, and there is nothing about it that would appear to be controversial or we thought that this was as much of a straightforward request as possible. Fernanda is prepared with a full presentation if you would like to have all of the details explained, but the thought was that the report was thorough enough and this was a minimal ask, and for those things we like to maybe keep it out of the complexities of the full hearing. But it's entirely up to the ARC members.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions about that?
So Patrick, instead of having a presentation by staff, we're supposed to just read the document and then float a motion and vote on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, the expectation is that you would have read it before today's hearing. And if not, or if there's any reason at all that there might be concern, then it's absolutely our pleasure to bring forward the full presentation. And like I said, Fernanda has that on the ready if that is desired.
I don't know if anybody had time to go by the property. I went yesterday and checked it out, and it looks to me like the street where the garage is, where we're talking about the setback, there's no houses on that street that face that street. It's really more of an alley, especially on that particular block. So I think, yeah, the plans are good. I think, tying the main house to the garage is done really well. I don't see, there's actually 2 off-street parking spaces, in addition to the fact that the garage is pretty much right on the street. So yeah, I think this is a you know, a fine project, and I don't have a problem personally with, you know, fudging those setbacks for this, if that's the consensus.
I went by it also, and I agree with Patrick. The other houses on that street, they have garages facing the same way, and they're kind of set up the same. And I agree, it's almost like an alley as opposed to actual street. So I'm fine with it as well.
So is there a motion on the consent agenda?
I can throw out a motion here. This would be to consider 1225 David Avenue ARC application ARP 200044 for a first-story addition remodel to an existing one-story single-family dwelling and garage, and a 20 variation by garage.
I think the correct motion is just to approve the consent agenda.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I don't think I've ever come across. Okay, so then we move to approve the consent agenda?
Yeah, because on the consent agenda is the minutes and the item.
Okay, well then I'll move to approve the consent agenda. How's that?
Is that correct, Amy? Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We'll do a roll call.
Did we get a tie on the second, or was there a clear front runner there? I'm not sure who that
I
one
heard Bob.
was. Okay. Jennifer, can you please do a roll call vote?
Sorry, I was having problems with my computer. Chair Carter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Bluth,
Aye.
Committee Member Connor,
Aye.
Committee Member Hunter,
Aye.
Committee Member Polly,
Aye.
Committee Member Rath,
Aye.
and Committee Member Tregenza.
Aye.
Great, the consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Great. So next we're going to go to public comments, and we'll see if there's any member of the public who wants to speak on an item not on the agenda. Jennifer, do you want to remind us how the public can participate in our meeting?
Are we supposed to do the minutes?
You're muted, Jennifer. The minutes were part of the consent agenda.
Got it.
I'm sorry about that. I thought I was unmuted. That phone number is 831-225-0330. Once again, 831-225-0330. You will need a conference ID. That is 192-7648. Again, 192-7648. Thank you.
And Jennifer, forgive me everyone for asking some technical questions here, but I think I need to reestablish that connection on my phone. Is that correct? So
Yes.
I dial the number, is that right?
Yes, you dial the number and enter the conference ID, and then you have a special assistant that you will find in your email.
Thank you.
We'll get there together. It's okay.
I appreciate that. So if somebody's calling in, please be patient with us. We are getting this established on the fly.
Please enter your conference ID and press the pound key.
And right now I'm doing the same thing we're asking you to do.
I love that accent.
Great, yeah.
The conference is in presentation mode. Your line is muted.
There we go.
The conference will begin. You will hear silence until the conference begins. You are now a host.
So being a host, I'm able to see if a call is in here, if a call is coming in. And Jennifer and I were able to test this earlier today, and we have a much shorter lag time than is true for the council meeting. So Jennifer, do you want to just give the number one more time in case somebody had some frustration earlier, and then we'll move on?
Absolutely, and I was logged in to the website online and did not see any new callers. But again, I will repeat that number. That is 831-225-0330. And the conference ID is 192-7648. Thank you.
Great. I think maybe we're good to go.
I think so.
Okay, awesome. So we're going to close public comments for this time, and we'll go to our first public appearance item, which is consider 15 Soledad Drive, Elroy's Fine Foods, Architecture Review Permit ARP 20-0112 for new exterior paint and sign permit application SI-0128 for one roof wall sign and 2 wall signs and window signage. Do we have a staff presentation?
Yes. Hi. Let me share my screen.
Please remind us who you are.
Yes.
Introduce yourself. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Hi, my name is Christy. I'm Associate Planner for the City of Monterey, and I'll be presenting the project at 15 Soledad Drive for a new exterior paint color and new signage. So the property is zone C1. It's designated commercial in the general plan, and it's located in the Monterey Vista neighborhood. So this project was referred to the ARC due to the proposed bold paint color. So it was staff that referred the exterior paint, the architectural review permit for the bold paint color to the ARC for a decision. Also, the proposed signage is not consistent with the citywide sign guidelines, which requires ARC review. So the property is located adjacent to other commercial uses in the Monte Vista Village, which is along Soledad Drive. It's across the street from a church and residences. The building was previously occupied by the Monte Vista Market and is now under new ownership. So the new market will be Elroy's Fine Foods, which will be occupying the same space. Just a little bit of background. The architect of the building was Rowan Maiden, who was a student of Frank Lloyd Wright, and that architect was also designed Nepenthe and Big Sur. The property owners hired a design firm out of Detroit, Rowan and Partners, to create this design for the new market, the new look and logo. So here are the proposed paint colors. We have 3 colors. It'll be predominantly Benjamin Moore yellow flash. And there'll actually be less yellow. As you see on the exterior elevation, it shows yellow above the windows. And those existing, the windows will remain, their existing windows. So there won't be yellow paint above the windows. And then there will be an accent color, black tar. And then that wall, which is attached to the building, would be a Sicilian, like a sort of like a off-white color. And so to review the architectural review findings, the proposed siding, form, mass, and architectural style are appropriate for the site and the neighborhood. The proposed exterior paint colors complement the architectural style of the building and contribute to an enhanced aesthetic along Soledad Drive. The proposed project will not unreasonably impair the view, privacy, and living environment currently enjoyed by properties in the vicinity. Only the exterior color of the building and new signage are proposed. There will not be view or privacy impacts, and the living environment will be enhanced by the design of the new market. The proposed project is substantially consistent with the general plan and similar documents. Exterior paint colors will heighten the visibility of the architectural style of the building and will complement the neighborhood and adjacent buildings. The proposed exterior finish colors are appropriate for the site and the immediate area in the city. The exterior paint colors improve the building's appearance, the neighborhood, and adjacent buildings. The building is set back 75 feet from Soledad, so it allows the visibility of the market And also it's within the vicinity of a highway interchange to enabling more modern bold graphics, kind of such as the Red Lion Hotel has red signs, red colors. Okay, I'm going to move on to the proposed signage, which is under the sign permit. So there are 3 signs that are proposed. Sign A, which is Elroy's Fine Foods. It qualifies as either a roof sign or a wall sign, so we've reviewed it as both. But staff would consider this more of a roof sign since it's located on the roof trusses. And then we have sign B, which is the logo would be attached to the wall. And they're going to remove the vines on the wall, and then they're going to replant them, and they're going to kind of sweep around this circle sign. And then sign C, and I'm going to move on to this slide. Sign C is just stating what's sold in the store to try to entice people to come in. Going back to sign A, Elroy's is proposed to be internally illuminated, and Fine Foods would not be. So according to the citywide sign guidelines, this property is in the C1 zoning district, which allows 1 square foot of signage for each linear foot of commercial building frontage. And this building has 70 linear feet, which allows, according to the sign guidelines, 70 square feet of signage for the property. So proposed sign A is 102 square feet as proposed. And again, Elroy's is proposed to be internally illuminated, LED lighting, and Fine Foods would not be. I took a picture. The applicant was kind enough to put samples up. The E and the L shown here, the Elroy's Fine Foods behind is just, those are stickers, just temporary. But these 2, E and L, and the FIN, if you can see them right along the roof line here, that's the size that is proposed with 102 square feet. Just to give you an idea of what the sign would actually look like, give it some scale. And I took a picture from Soledad to show you what you can see the E and L, and you can't even see the FIN. So to give you an idea of what that would look like. Then there's proposed sign B, the circular sign with a logo. It's 85.5 square feet as proposed. It would be located along this wall. Again, new vinage would be installed, and it would grow around the sign. And this is the view from Soledad to give you an idea of what that looks like from there. This is just like a kind of a cardboard sign just to show you what it would look like. Here's a summary of the signage. So sign A is either a roof or wall sign as determined by ARC. Staff has reviewed it as both. And the total signage is 231.5 square feet. The maximum allowable in the sign guidelines is 70 square feet, and that's why it's before ARC, who ARC can approve a greater signage. So just walking through the sign guidelines here, the proposed signage does exceed the sign guidelines, and that's why it's before ARC. So in terms of the roof sign, this is the Elroy's Fine Foods sign. The roof signs are generally discouraged, should only be used when the character of the area or physical characteristics support the use. And there really is no other location for this Elroy's Fine Foods. I guess you could put it on the wall, but it's not located as close to the public entrance, not as visible from Soledad, which is set back. And there should be no more than 1 roof sign per building along the frontage, and there would be only 1. Roof sign should not exceed 50 square feet in area. It does exceed that, requiring ARC approval. A roof sign would be located on the same building face as the public entrance, and yes, it would. So wall signs, there should be no more than 2 wall signs per storefront. If you consider, so sign B and sign C is a wall sign. If you consider sign A a wall sign, then it would exceed that. A wall sign should not exceed 50 square feet. Sign A, if considered a wall sign, it does exceed that, and so does sign B. A wall sign should be located on the same building face as the public entrance, and it is. So again, internal illumination is proposed, and I will walk through these. So LED lighting is proposed. The applicant indicated that the Elroys would be manufactured to be consistent with our sign guidelines. So I've just requested or added a condition of approval for ARC's review, which would ensure that that it would be manufactured to those specifications. The second guideline for illumination is the light source should be shielded from view to prevent glare. It won't be shielded. However, the light will be illuminated only if in the evening when the ambient light is low, and a photo cell will turn the light on and a timer will turn it off. So the sign will only be lit in the evening for a limited time. The lighting should be focused on the sign, will not be focused on the sign. A halo lit sign is not really feasible because there's really not like a wall behind that signage to shine off of. So, but each letter will be internally illuminated, and the lighting really will be low, have a low light pollution. And in terms of the kelvins, I think I need to switch. In terms of the kelvins, it will be consistent with this. I've also added that to the condition of approval. These will be energy efficient LED lights. And in terms of the last one, illumination guidelines will be considered in combination with the exterior illumination of the buildings or site. Applicants may be required to submit light intensity and temperature measurements. So the Elroys will be a partially illuminated sign, just the Elroys portion. It'll be low voltage energy efficient LED lighting. The applicant indicated the sign will be manufactured to meet the illumination guidelines, and with the staff's condition of approval ensuring that the warmth and the LED lighting will be consistent with these guidelines, and staff believes it's consistent. So in terms of the sign findings, the proposal achieves the purpose and objectives of the sign ordinance. The sign effectively identifies the business. The signage is not overly cluttered. The signs reflect the unique qualities of the site and convey a cohesive and complementary streetscape. Proposed signs are not wholly consistent with the sign guidelines. Two of the signs, signs A and B, exceed the maximum allowable signage allowed. The total area of all signs is exceeded by over 161 square feet, but that's why that's only for administrative review, and that's why it's before ARC. The proposed signage is largely consistent with the general plan. It supports the operation of a commercial use. Staff recommends approval of the sign permit application and the architectural review permit application. And also I wanted to let you know that I had combined the resolution, the architectural review and the sign permit into one resolution, but it really should have been separated. Nothing was added or removed. I just simply took language for the architectural review, put it in one resolution, took language for the signage and put it in another one. So that's the end of my presentation. The applicant is on the Google Meet here and is available for any questions.
Are any questions for Christy?
I have a question. Christy, you mentioned that the color that was selected is consistent with the architectural style. Can you elaborate on that?
It appears to be, let's see, can you see the?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Kind of a modern looking building, and it just appears to fit with the architectural style. But I'm, wondering if the ARC has different input on that. That's just how staff felt in looking at the color against the building.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Christy, this is Ed Hunter. I have a question. Could you go back to one of the first slides where you're talking about color here? I didn't quite understand what you were saying when you were highlighting a particular area, but the
Oh, sure.
could you cover that again? Because I'm not quite sure I understand or
Right.
understood because the sound was muffled.
Oh,
but
sure.
Can you go over that again, please?
So the elevation with the color on it didn't accurately reflect the windows that will remain. So I've highlighted the area where there's actually existing windows that are remaining. So there will really be less yellow. It'll just be underneath the windows.
So that area you have circled in blue, that will be basically the color or the glass in the windows
Exactly.
there,
That'll
not
be glass.
whatever is painted. That
Yeah.
and then like as you were talking about the framing of this, so the area around the on the edge of the eaves or the roof, is that proposed painted as well, or would that you know is that a material that you can paint, and or is it just kind of the metal grayish black that a lot of the other buildings in the area have right now?
I'm not specifically sure which part of the roof you're talking about, but maybe this is something that the applicant can answer because it's,
Okay.
yeah, we're talking about the materials of the roof.
Yeah, I'm ready to answer if that's okay.
We'll get to you in just a minute.
Oh,
We're going to finish
okay.
questions
Okay,
of
got it.
Christy, and then we'll let you do a presentation.
Okay, cool.
Christy, I have a question for you. So we went through this a little bit when we were approving the sign program at Cypress Plaza, and we were approving the Mountain Mike signs, and you were measuring the sign by an arbitrary square around Elroy's, and that doesn't really reflect the actual amount of square footage of the sign because there's so much extra empty space.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it doesn't seem like a fair amount when you say it's 150 square feet, but it's not actually that much.
Well, if you could see on here, it was measured along here to the width and the length, and then this was measured, the fine foods was measured separately.
Right, but what I'm saying is there's a lot of extra empty space between the letters.
Oh.
So it's not really actually 150 square feet of sign.
That's
So is there
true.
any way for us to figure out how much actual sign square footage there is there?
Can I add to
Yes,
the?
Andy.
Yes. So in the past, the ARC has requested consideration or investigation into the idea of maybe altering our sign design guidelines to more accurately capture the negative space, like what you're talking about, to recognize the sign versus negative space. That was not pursued, and
Do you have a commenter?
no, I was afraid that I didn't know. It's a county employee. So it's not a path I would recommend. It's easy to get into the weeds with things like that. It's definitely very typical for a city to have a standard like ours, which is the smallest rectangle possible around a sign area. But it's certainly within your purview as the ARC to take that into consideration, that there is a lot of negative space included with these letters. Now, we did have letters, Christy, I hate to put you on the spot like this, but because it was your project, I'm thinking you might have good recollection, and that is for the Andronico sign. Did that also, because those were installed letter by letter individually, it might be that we reviewed that sort of holistically for each. I don't remember if there was a rectangle for that one. But,
yeah, I don't
but you can,
recall.
And we also did it with Mike's at Cypress Plaza too. We talked about it for that sign because we went through a similar discussion.
But at any rate, it's certainly it is the decision of the ARC for any sign that exceeds the maximum design guidelines. But there's no penalty or there's no prejudice for a sign that maybe has 200 square feet versus 50. It's more about appropriateness, and that's where your discretion comes in as a committee.
Okay. Does anybody else have any other thoughts on this? Okay, would the applicants like to make a presentation?
Hi. Nope. Hi. Yes, we would.
Go for it. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having us, and thank you for your consideration, thoughtful consideration. Chloe and I are excited to open our new project in Monterey. We were previously in Carmel, so we're excited to be in a more pro-business city. And the reason why we are here is to approve the signage, but I kind of wanted to tell you just a little bit about Elroy's Fine Foods and the thought that went behind the design and the look and feel of it. You had mentioned this location was Monte Vista Market. It had been Monte Vista Market for quite a long time, and it has a lot of nostalgia behind it and a great reputation. And we wanted to kind of bring that back and revive the community market because it's in such a great neighborhood. There's a lot of great neighborhoods tucked back into that area, and there's not much to offer there other than Whole Foods and not much else. So we wanted to really be plugged into the community, and we wanted to reflect this community vibe in our design as well. Jennifer, I believe, who presented this. Christy, sorry. Christy had mentioned that we partnered with a design firm, Brogan and Partners, out of Detroit. And they really wanted to play up the mid-century vibe of the building because it has an important story for our area. The architect was very famous, and it's connected to Nepenthe, which is another kind of landmark in our area. And so we really wanted to play up this mid-century vibe, and that's why we picked the yellow color and the font to reflect that. So that's basically why we chose the look and feel. And not only that, but also to reflect our mission and vision. But I wanted to clarify one thing. Sign C, we created Sign C as a way of clearing up the windows. You may have seen at typical community markets, they kind of put a bunch of words in their windows and clutter their windows up with what's inside, like liquor, wine, deli. So we wanted to clean it up and keep those windows open. And that's why we have Sign C. So we wanted to clear the windows and just kind of put what we would put in the windows in Sign C. So I just wanted to clarify that, but that's basically it.
Are there any questions for the applicant? Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah. I guess, first of all, I think a lot of people in the community are really excited about you guys coming in here and opening this shop. It's just a breath of fresh air. And so we are really excited about that. I walked over and looked at the building last night. It's sort of funny now that it's all sort of torn apart and empty. I was looking at it and I never knew it was a Rowan Maiden building, but I remember looking at it yesterday and thinking, that's a really cool mid-century building. And I never realized it had those bones until it's sort of been stripped clean. I think your presentation, if we could possibly bring back up the images, is really nice. I do have a couple of questions. I was really happy to hear that you're not dropping those window heads, that glass is going to go all the way to the taller height. because I think that's important. It did look real strange to have those strange little bands of yellow above the glass, and the building reads much more elegantly with that glass going all the way to the bottom of that brise soleil type shade structure. One thing I would consider on that, well, a question for starters. I noticed in this rendering, the doors are presented as black, but I noticed last night it looked like the doors had been installed and they are actually a brushed aluminum.
That's correct.
Is that the finished color of the doors?
Yes, that's correct. The black ones wouldn't come in time, so we went with the silver.
All right, always a lead time thing.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would ask you about is a big thing of Rowan Maiden's architecture and mid-century architecture in general is that expression of the structure that happens. You know, the framing is often exposed. You have these little skinny posts that support these big beams, and that's often exposed on the exterior of the building. And you do a nice job of painting those black up in the clear story behind the sign. And I would only ask if you've considered to maintain that black on the posts as they come down to the ground underneath the shade structure, so that the expression of those vertical structural elements remains a consistent color on the lower and the upper portion of the building. It's a nitpicky little thing, but I think if the original architect were there, they would want to sort of keep the expression of that structure on the building. And I wouldn't hold the project up or anything like that, but it's something when you're doing your final painting, you might want to take a close look at that and consider whether or not you want those sort of dark vertical elements that are in that clear story to continue down to the ground plane. Because when you are in the front of the building, I think the expression of those columns, they've been painted out now to match the wall color, but they're still there in 3 dimensions, and you can actually see them coming down. And allow that expression to happen, I think would look pretty neat.
Is that, can you only see that when you're at the building, or can you see that on our design right here on the screen? Because I'm not seeing.
Because I think those are, I'm pretty sure those are just window frames up there.
Yeah, if you look at the picture, I feel like the mullions between the windows are the actual structural columns. I could be wrong.
Yeah, no, those are window frames.
But we'll double check. And
No, they are window frames. I'm
Okay.
pretty sure. But you know, we did continue that theme inside. We're painting the interior structural beams black, like on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And we've exposed the interior beams in their natural wood.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else?
No, I'd just like to add, you know, I think this is a great project. Living in the area, fairly close to it, looking forward to a very nice, more you know, fresh new market in the area like that. I think is a great idea, and wish you all the success with it. But I'll second what Justin had mentioned about the black mullions, whether the window frames are not down to ground level like that. My own personal opinion, I think that would look great and go with the style of the architecture. But you know, it's not something I would hold the project up on, but just my input on that. So, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zoe, are we making comments now or just asking questions?
Just asking questions. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open it for public comment. Are there any public comments on this item?
Actually, I do. My name is James Smith. I'm an architect, and can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I actually live about a quarter mile away from this project, and I'm here on another matter, but I wanted to express my my enthusiasm for this market. I used to shop there, and I'm looking forward to shopping there again. And I think that is beautifully done. the original building design is residential in character, and it's not conducive to signage. So at least not in the sense that we think of today. So I think that having it exceed the signage is acceptable, especially since a lot of their signage and the color is going to be blocked by cars that are parked there because there's really nowhere else to put the signage. So I think what they've done is extremely tasteful. And I also think that that little center, it's a jewel, but it's a little sleepy. And I think that the color is exciting and it adds freshness and it livens it up. And I think that, you know, these folks have to compete with the Del Monte Center. And so I just want to express my full support, and I look forward to shopping there in the future.
Jennifer, do you want to remind the public how they can call in?
Yes, thank you. That call-in number is 831-225-0330. Once again, that is 225-0330. The conference ID is 192-7648. I believe there is about a 30-second delay, so we will wait just a little bit while this public comment period is open. Thank you. And now I am showing that we do not have any callers at the minute.
We good to go?
I'd say yes.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to move into committee member comments. Does anybody want to start?
I'll start.
Great.
I don't have any problem with the Elroy sign on where it's located and being considered a rooftop. The other buildings near it also have smaller rooftop signs, so I think that fits in just fine. The other signs, although they're large, because the building is set back so far from the road and there's a lot of vegetation between the road and the store, I don't have a problem with that. I think that's probably appropriate. Could be a little bit smaller, but I'm okay with that. I am having a problem with the color. The color that comes across on the presentation is a little more muted than what came up. It's on my phone. On my phone, it's a brilliant yellow. And I understand that, you know, that's what's it called? In line with the architecture, but I've looked at a lot of different houses that are the same type of architecture, and there's just, if there's yellow, that color yellow at all, it's just like a door or just small sections. The rest is more muted. When I went down to the area, all the other buildings are very muted, including the church across the street. The buildings on either side, they're either cream or brown or kind of a really bizarre looking green, but it's not bright. So I am a little concerned with the color, and I think bringing the black mullions, I think you called it, down, that might help break it up. But it's gonna stick out, and maybe that's a good thing, but maybe that's not. So those are my comments.
This is Patrick. Super excited about this project. I used to have a charge account at Monte Vista Market years and years ago. That strip mall really needs an anchor, and I think this applicant's going to do a great job. The color is bright. I own a 50s mid-century modern house, and that's not a typical color for a residential house, but this is a commercial building. And I think it's gonna tie the signage, and is gonna work with the architecture, and then the color kind of makes it a little bit more 21st century. But I got the impression that when all is said and done, a new person driving by the store on Soledad might think, oh, geez, I wonder how long that little diner or that little grocery store's been there. Maybe since the 50s or 60s. So I think it's kind of cool that we're honoring the architect, and it's going to be a great thing. We're really excited about it. Good job.
This is Shannon. At the risk of sounding somewhat repetitive, I'm also in the neighborhood and looking forward to this new business. And the color definitely was surprising when I first scrolled through the packet, but I think I do like that it's got that it pops a little bit more and it does liven it up. So yeah, I think it's exciting. It is going to be different, but I think in a good way. I really like the logo as well. I was a little thrown off by sign C, but I appreciate the background. It puts it in context a little bit more for me. So yeah, I like I said, I'll leave it at that because I think everything else has been said.
Anybody else? I'll just say that the yellow is bright, and I'm the daughter of an artist, and my mother painted her 2 industrial buildings seafoam green in the sea of beige. So I can appreciate bright colors, and I think colors are a good thing always. So I saw that Sean's on here, so I'm assuming he's doing your signs, and he always does a great job. So I think it's going to be good. I do not live in that neighborhood, but I will definitely come over and check it out. Do you guys want to give a crack at a motion?
Can I please remind staff that there's 2 resolutions, one for the architectural review permit and one for the sign permit. Thank you.
I can certainly take a stab at it. I'm not sure how to word with the two resolutions, but I think
Can we just
see it.
do it
Okay.
as one motion? And
Yeah.
then
Would just reference the 2 separate application numbers.
yeah.
Okay.
I would like to request 2 separate motions, if possible.
Okay. Well, I'll make one for the signs, for the sign application. Can we separate them or no?
Yes, you can separate them.
Okay, so I'll say that I move to approve sign permit application SI 20-0128 for 1 roof wall sign, 2 wall signs, and window signage at 15 Soledad Drive.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
That was Justin.
Yeah.
Roll call.
Yes, I have Chair Carter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bluth,
Yes.
Committee Member Connor,
Yes.
Committee Member Hunter, Committee Member Hunter, are you still?
Oh, sorry, aye.
Thank you. Committee Member Polly,
Aye.
Committee Member Rath,
Aye.
Committee Member Tregenza.
Hi.
Thank you. That was the full vote.
So that passed unanimously.
Mhm.
And then a second motion on the architecture review permit.
All right, I'll do that one too.
Thanks, Shannon.
I move that we approve permit ARP 20-0112 for new exterior paint at 15 Soledad Drive.
I'll second that.
That was Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a roll call. So Chair Carter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bluth,
Aye.
Committee Member Connor,
Aye.
Committee Member Hunter,
Aye.
Committee Member Polly,
Aye.
Committee Member Rath,
Nay.
and Committee Member Tregenza.
Aye.
All right, thank you. That passed with 6 votes.
Okay, so both of those can be appealed to the Planning Commission in 10 days. Thank you all for your participation and for being here, and we're excited to see the new market. Let us know when
Thank
it
you
opens.
all. We will. It should
Yeah.
be mid-July, mid to late July. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye-bye.
Bye, neighbors.
Okay, we're going to go to the second public appearance item. Consider 258-270 Foam Street, architecture review application ARP 19-0201 to allow access to the rec trail. Is there a staff presentation?
You're muted, Andy. I think you're still muted, or I can't hear anything.
I can't either.
I also am no longer seeing Andy at the minute.
Sorry, guys.
There-
I want to thank Chair Carter. I've thanked you 3 times, but nobody heard me. So thank you, Chair Carter. I will present now. My name
I'll
is
take
Andy.
all the thank yous.
My name is Andy Flower, Principal Planner. And as the chair mentioned, this is a proposal to gain access to the recreation trail for site 258-270 Foam Street. It is 2 parcels. A little background. This is a, let me make sure I got to the right one. I'm sorry. Yes, okay. Yes, this is a site that is combined with 300 Cannery Row, which has spent quite a lot of time in our council chambers for review. And so this just gives a little background. So the original CEQA for the 300 Cannery Row was in 2018. The approval of preliminary and final architectural review for, at the time, it was for both 300 Cannery Row, and initially there was a proposed mixed use building for this site that we're discussing this evening. The plans changed over time so that the site that we're discussing today, it is currently a parking lot and it will remain a parking lot. So the use permit was approved last year on 8/13/2019. It was then appealed, but it was it was confirmed that the Planning Commission approval would remain. And so here we've got a little bit of a map to help you understand the relationship between 300 Cannery Row. I don't know if you can see my cursor, but it's the top yellow, and the second yellow is the subject site that we're discussing today. You'll see alongside the second yellow site is the rec trail or recreation trail. So a little more on background. There was an ADA review, an ADA path that was proposed. And here we have, to the right of your screen is our subject site, and you'll see dashed lines that take the eye all the way across over to what is the 300 Cannery Row property all the way on your left. And so this ADA path that was approved, it circumnavigates the recreation trail and then through a park, Monterey City Park, and then across Cannery Row to the 300 Cannery Row site. And here we have the motion that was made in favor of that ADA pathway. So here we have the proposed parking lot. And we heard from the community early on when the architectural review was at hand for 300 Cannery Row that they really wanted to see this tree be preserved. And our applicants have really gone the distance in helping make that possible. We worked with our forester, and he has agreed that this plan could help this tree survive the development. And so the development, again, it is only a parking lot that will now be improved. It is no longer the mixed use. It is just, there are no additional stories. So here we have an ADA lift, a bike rack, and a stair that takes the user or the I could say the resident for 300 Cannery Row from their vehicle down to the rec trail so that they could make their way to their home. Now you can see here that the width is 19 feet 2 inches, and that's going to be an important point to note as we go through the review. This is a little fuzzy. I'm going to show you something that's more detailed here in a second, but this is an elevation. You can see the ADA lift and the stairway and the tree that is retained. Another thing you can see is the existing wooden wall that will remain. Here we can see a detail, and this is a point that I would like for the ARC members to see clearly, that our architect who's with us today in our meeting will be able to explain this a little more, but in order to allow for more safety, it's been clarified that this railing would be a decorative metal mesh. And I would suggest that the ARC maybe consider mentioning that if that is a way that you'd like to see this project move forward, if there is a motion. So here we have a section. You can see again the tree that is to remain. You can see a person there for scale, the stair, walkway, and the rec trail. Again, here's a better detail that shows that decorative metal mesh that is proposed. So the project must be found to be consistent with the Monterey Peninsula Recreation Trail policies and standards for adjacent development. And specifically, the objective for that regulatory document is to permit new private access to the rec trail that encourages mid-block access between the trail and adjacent streets in a manner that will not detract from or inhibit the variety of users. And we know that that's a multimodal trail. We welcome commuters, bike riders, walkers, sightseers, and shoppers, among others, of course. So the width of the access walkway, so this is of all of the criteria that is within that document specific to this kind of proposal, this is the one that is especially before the ARC today, because it clearly gives the ARC discretion for those proposals that exceed the maximum that is in this guideline set. So the guideline is that it not exceed 10% of the property, and with that formula to have there be a maximum of 8 feet. Clearly this is 19 feet, I believe 2 inches. So this is exceeding that, and this is why it's before you today. So staff response to this is that the proposed width is necessary in order to accommodate bicyclists, pedestrians, stairway landing, and the ADA lift apron. Staff recommends that this multimodal design is the minimum necessary to enable safe passage for all accessible use of this connection between the parking lot and the recreation trail. And that, let me clarify, 19 feet 7 inches. So the conditions that staff is recommending along with this proposal, or with this proposed resolution, I should say, is that with the building permit application process, that the designers work closely with our city parks operation manager as well as our parks and recreation director. while there is quite a bit of guidance within that regulatory document, things evolve over time. We've had new buildings recently where the kind of lighting details and landscaping details that our park staff would like to see, it's been made very clear. And so we want to make sure that that more evolved guidance is given. So that is the proposed condition.
End in 5 minutes.
We're gonna have to call back, excuse me. Just want to make sure that doesn't make a sound. Here we go. Thank you for your patience. Yes, so another condition is that construction activity follow the guidance that's within our regulatory document, and that would all be regulated by our building department through that building permit review process. So lastly, we just want to recommend approval for the proposed recreation trail access with the conditions that we just discussed, and make it clear that staff finds that this proposal demonstrates by its design orientation to adjacent buildings and through access to the adjacent street that the public will benefit from this access, and that use of the recreation trail will not be degraded. And with that, I am available for questions.
I just have a clarifying question, Andy. You mentioned that when we do the approval or the resolution, you said something about the decorative metal mesh. Do we need to add that if we agree with that, or is that already in there?
It is not already in there. That was a last minute design and an improved design change. And we have the architect here today if you'd like to ask more questions about that. But yes, thank you for catching that. That is exactly my intention, that for anyone making a motion that they include that language as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Andy, Patrick. So are we just considering the width of this access and not the fact that, whether or not we think having access that impedes traffic is a good idea or not? It's just the actual width of the access?
You're muted, Andy.
What was included in your staff report, and I'm happy to open that up and we can discuss that more at length. But most of the other criteria, I would say is less maybe interesting for the viewer with at the ARC today. I can certainly include the full list of findings in future proposals. I guess I've been presenting to council and minimizing my presentations. So all of the information for what is being reviewed by the ARC today has been included in your packet. But the crux of it is certainly the most important piece is this width and whether or not the ARC would accept this wider width. But you are correct in asking whether or not the whole of the access is also part of the proposal and what is being asked by the ARC to be approved today. Yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Andy? Okay, would the applicant like to make a presentation?
Sure. This is James Smith again. I don't know that it was immediately apparent that the width of access was something we were exceeding. So we're not trying to put one over on anyone. We just designed to what we felt was a safe functionality. I correct me if I'm wrong, Andy, but I think that width limitation was to restrict commercial interchange of onto the rec trail. And to me, it seems like this is additive to what the rec trail is about in terms of circulation. So hopefully that could be agreed upon. It can be reduced. I just think that the functionality will suffer slightly. The screening up on top that Andy mentioned was, when we looked at it today, just in terms of reducing it, I started thinking about how it might create an internal corner that wasn't visually apparent to people, and maybe there would be somebody lurking or sleeping back behind it. And then I started thinking about the upper level and how maybe we could reduce the massing and also provide for safer passage. Someone walking up the stairs, you know, perhaps somebody could be lurking behind the solid railing and jump out at them. I don't know, maybe it's a sign of the times, but I'm thinking that this is a safer design so that people can have visual continuity. And I think it actually presents for a nicer project. So that's the reason for the late submittal that literally was just this afternoon. But any other questions, I'm here to answer.
Are there questions for the applicant? Okay, then we will go to public comments. Do we have any comments from the public?
Again, that dial-in number is 831-225-0330, 225-0330, and the conference ID is 192-7648. Again, 192-7648. Thank you.
Okay, I think we'll move on.
Yes,
If
I
anybody
see
calls
no
in,
callers.
Yeah, if anybody calls in, we'll of course take their comments. All right, who wants to start off with committee comments?
This is Patrick. I have one more question for Andy, I guess.
Sure.
Was there any study done as to how much traffic this is as far as crossing the rec trail? How many people per day are going to be adding to this cross flow of traffic between the parking lot and 300 Cannery Row?
Well, that's a good question. I would imagine it would be a function of maybe a transportation or a traffic analysis, but no, the answer is no, nothing like that has been created. It wasn't anticipated that it would be onerous or that it would be excessive.
My concern is that the rec trail, you know, I ride over 100 miles a week on my bicycle, and I don't ride on the rec trail because it's dangerous. People don't follow the signage. And this is just another project that's adding to the confusion, adding to people crossing the rec trail, going against the traffic. And so I just wondered if you guys had done any sort of feasibility study on the effects of that.
No, but we will encourage the designer to work with our park staff, certainly for lighting, and for landscaping, so that it would follow sort of SEPTED safety standards. I know that.
Okay, thanks. I guess I'll throw it out to the rest of the committee and see if anybody else has any questions about that.
Yeah, I had one question. Is it a blind intersection into the rec trail? So as you're coming down, can people see you or can you see them? So you're not going to run into anybody if like a little kid is running down the stairs and just continues to go straight out. I could easily see my daughter just, you know, running down the stairs and going into it. So I think for the situational awareness, can you see other people kind of connecting into Patrick's question? So if you're a bicyclist, you see somebody coming down, and also would you see the person who's walking? Will they see anything on the rec trail?
It's a really straight area. Opposite is a long building, and down, not too far down to the, I guess, west, there's another set of stairs that come down from the Big Sur Charter School and the little plaza there. So I run down there all the time. I think there's really good view for people coming down and for people on the rec trail. So I don't see a problem with that.
If I may present for a moment, I could maybe show a comparison. James, I'm gonna show the second image that you sent us. So James was kind enough to show us what a 10-foot width would be, and you can see that with that almost 20 feet, that's going to allow for more of an alcove area for safety. Would be my consideration. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the 19 feet. It's just, do we look at any other alternatives to having, is there a way that they could go down the sidewalk like, we were just talking about, there's another little park that, like 2 doors down that has stairway that has access already to the rec field. So why can't we use that? Is it because it's not ADA?
Correct. This is the ADA pathway that was approved in the past. So there wasn't consideration for altering that. That would take a new hearing.
Anyone else have comments?
Yeah, this is Justin. The architect might chime in a little bit here, because the ADA path of travel thing is actually a very strict guideline. And when the building department looks at a project, it's the path of travel and building access are really one of the first things that they look at. So it's not, there's a real distance limitation there. I believe it's 300 feet is the maximum distance for a path of travel. So swinging this thing, a property or two over in either direction, it may or may not have been feasible. But again, I'll defer to the architect to sort of defend that. And they're really tough. They're really tough rules, and a lot of times you end up in situations like this where you have to find the straightest path. I am a bit surprised that they're allowing a path of travel, and maybe the architect can comment on this as well, a path of travel across what is essentially a vehicular corridor like that. And it doesn't look like there's any proposed striping or the raised ADA bumps that you see when you're entering a vehicular corridor. Has this been discussed at all about the fact that it's really, I know Patrick brought up the concern for the cyclists, which is obviously legitimate, but you also have blind people and visually impaired people that are in wheelchairs. I mean, it's dangerous for them too, with the cyclists barreling down that pathway. And I'm just wondering how you're proposing to handle that, because it is sort of a dangerous situation.
Well, let me first say that when this project came to me, it was a pretty big ball of yarn in terms of the 300 Cannery Row, which is the sister project or the main project, if you will. And I decided that Paul Davis Partnership was a better fit for that larger project, and that's been going on for many years. If you want to know of a complicated project, that's it. They have litigated this path of travel issue quite extensively, and I'm going to let Andy speak to that more, because honestly, guys, I haven't been as involved, or really very much involved. I know that pretty much every alternative that could have been looked at has been looked at. The idea of truncated domes as you enter the rec trail is an interesting proposition, or striping. I don't know whether this is considered a vehicular access. I know that Parks Department drives on it, but I don't know that any other motorized vehicles are allowed. So that's an interesting question in terms of gray area. We're certainly open to making it as safe as possible. I'll just leave it at that for now.
And I do want to make it clear that this will go through a building permit review, and our building official will make sure that that it meets all ADA code requirements. So while it didn't necessarily, the design didn't necessarily need to have all of the details in order to achieve the approval for the pathway itself, those details will be required through the permit review process.
I just want to add that, especially in the last couple of months with the COVID-19, the use of e-bikes has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
And an average e-bike weighs about 75 pounds, and speed limit on the bike path 20 miles an hour.
You're muted, Andy.
Did you say 40?
That's 20.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make a comment since I'm on that area of the bike trail all the time. There's a lot of different accesses onto the bike trail, and I don't know what the history of accidents are between bicycles and people. And I don't know if the city would know that or not, but it seems to me that there's not a lot. And some of those accesses, like the stairs that are nearby, they just end on the trail. So I don't know how many stairs, but there are other areas where people just come down. So it'd be interesting to find out if that is an issue in other accesses or not.
Yeah, but I think Justin brings up an important point to make sure if it's an ADA access that we're making sure to comply and make sure that if we have visually impaired people or handicapped that we're making sure they're safe too, especially if there's an e-bike barreling down 20 miles an hour.
Absolutely, I agree with that.
Are there any other comments? Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll try it.
Great.
I hereby, oh no, my phone's going dead. I move to approve the application ARP 200210 for a preliminary and final architectural review to allow access to the recreation trail as described herein, and with the findings and conditions. And one of the added conditions is the decorative metal mesh screening that was proposed today.
Is there a second on that?
I'll second it.
Is that you, Ed?
Yes.
Great. Roll call vote, please.
Chair Carter,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bluth,
Aye.
Committee Member Connor,
Yes.
Committee Member Hunter,
Aye.
Committee Member Polly,
Aye.
Committee Member Rath,
Aye.
and Committee Member Tregenza.
Nay.
All right, so that vote passed by 6 votes. Thank you.
Great. So it was 6 yeses and 1 no. Okay, so that can be appealed to the Planning Commission in 10 days. Thank you, everybody. Are there any informal committee comments?
I apologize, Chair Carter. I just have one clarification.
Yeah, sure.
We just have to be careful with our language. I just want to make sure that that the public understands that this approval can be appealed within the next 10 days.
Within 10 days. Not in 10 days, within 10 days.
Thank you.
Got it. Thank you for that. And is that business days or calendar days?
That's a good question. I believe it's calendar days.
Okay. I'll add that into the, just so everybody's clear.
And I'll make sure. I'll come back with confirmation.
That would be great. Are there any other comments? Do you have any staff comments?
No staff comments, no.
Okay.
Do we have an update, Andy?
Do you have anything upcoming for us?
We do. It's been changing even as of today, so I wanted to make sure that I have this correct. So we do have 2 projects coming up for July 1st, and that would be it may be 923 Margaret, and that would be on consent. And then we have 222 Via Del Rey. That may also be on consent. I'm not sure. So we'll look at those a little more thoroughly, but those are the 2 sites that will be reviewed that day.
Great. Then we will adjourn the meeting at 5:21. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a great week.
Thank